Alright, so the Super Mario Bros. Movie finally came out. When this got announced, I remember being pretty skeptical. Number one, obviously, because it's a video game movie, so automatically it's statistically likely to fail. And number two, because of the voice acting choices. I have nothing against Chris Pratt or any of the other main voice cast, I just knew that by going with celebrities over professional voice actors, it was going to feel a little weird for these video game characters that everyone knows incredibly well, even though they're usually only making noises rather than speaking full sentences. Ultimately, I feel like my concerns were validated here, but fortunately that was actually pretty much the only major problem I had with the movie, and it surprisingly pulled off a lot of things really well. Let's just get the bitching out of the way early so then we can get into all the positives. Chris Pratt just isn't Mario, man. He actually did change his voice a lot more for the role than I thought he was going to, but I still didn't love it. Charlie Day as Luigi was alright, but in typical Luigi fashion, they sort of sidelined him for most of the movie after the opening, so I didn't quite have as much time to make up my mind on that one. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong was kinda fun, but I feel like DK isn't really supposed to be that goofy. Again, I know these are characters that normally only express themselves with noises or short catchphrases, but if you've played a lot of Nintendo games, you know that the characters do have distinct personalities, and I just never saw Donkey Kong as that silly. To me, Seth Rogen is more of like a chunky Kong or even a funky Kong. Anya Taylor-Joy is one of my favorite actors in the world, but her as Peach just didn't really fly for me. It was pretty much just exactly her regular voice for the character, similarly to most of the other main cast, and I don't blame them for it because they're not voice actors. It's a totally different skill than on-screen acting, so I only blame whoever made the casting decisions. Even with Jack Black, I love him as much as anyone, but with Bowser it does feel more like they took Bowser's likeness and essentially gave him a Jack Black personality instead of having Jack Black actually adapt to the role. Especially with how they made Bowser into this like blues singing piano player. I don't even hate the idea as a whole or anything, but it just drives home so much that you're listening to Jack Black right now that he never really feels that Bowser-y in the traditional sense, if you know what I mean. When you listen to an interview with an actual voice actor, you realize that almost none of the dozens of characters that they voice are just their regular voice, maybe a couple at most, and that's what makes the actual animated characters themselves so memorable. The voice actors are able to lose themselves in the character and create a completely new persona, and you just don't get that effect using famous screen actors. It comes across as Chris Pratt delivering Mario's lines at the end of the day, and I think that having proper voice actors take on these roles would have made the characters feel a lot closer to the personalities of the characters that most of us know from playing the video games. Anyway, with all that out of the way, despite how it probably sounds right now, I actually did have a pretty good time with this movie. They definitely nailed a lot of it. The environments in the movie in particular look really fantastic, especially the Mushroom Kingdom. The characters themselves look pretty good, not perfect, definitely could have gotten a little closer to the video game counterparts in my opinion, but definitely not bad, especially compared to when they first came out with the character posters before the movie dropped. My favorite thing about the film was definitely just all the small nods to Nintendo throughout, like Mario playing Kid Icarus on the NES, the Mario Kart selection screen when they're in the Congo jungle, or Luigi's ringtone being the GameCube startup sound. Also, the battle in the Kong jungle being similar to the original Donkey Kong game was really cool. Despite me not loving how they went with the main cast of characters, they definitely nailed the little side characters like Toad, Shy Guy, Kamek, Dry Bones, and all of them. As far as the story goes, it's obviously nothing special and pretty light, but it's totally fine for a video game movie. It's about as much plot as one of the games would get. Bowser's coming to do bad stuff, gotta stop him, magical stars are involved, etc. I do think the movie could have been a little bit longer. Like if you don't count the credits, this thing definitely clocks in at under 90 minutes. I know it's mostly made for kids with TikTok attention spans and all that, but still. Also would have liked to see some more of the more well-known side characters like Yoshi, Birdo, Daisy, Wario, and Waluigi. But I'm assuming they probably want to save some of those characters for a potential sequel, which after the opening weekend box office numbers is probably already in progress. It was definitely fun to see so much of the Kong family though, even if it was just for a couple quick shots apart from DK and Cranky, who, by the way, with the way they made his personality, I would have absolutely loved it if Cranky could have been voiced by Larry David. Anyway, yeah, I did actually like this movie. It was pretty fun. Whoever came up with the idea for the little psychotic Lumen in the prison deserves a raise for sure. I still feel strongly about the voice acting situation, but ultimately it's one of those things where the corporate greed is just always going to win out. Would it have felt a little more faithful to the video games with different voice actors? Probably. Would this movie have made as much on opening weekend if Chris Pratt, Jack Black, and Anya Taylor-Joy's names weren't on the poster? Almost certainly not. But hey, despite all that, I'd still say this was a pretty good movie and definitely a successful video game adaptation. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you got a second, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.